Today I am reviewing a unique book written by Jack Seward called Learning Basic Japanese. I noticed that the newer edition of this book is called Easy Japanese. To be honest, I think both of these titles don't really fit this interesting book. Regardless, I can't review this book without considering the man who wrote it. Jack Seward was a Texan who served under General Douglas MacArthur's staff command during the Allied occupation of Japan. He resided over 25 years in Japan, where he gained a reputation as a linguist and expert on the nation of Japan. After that, he returned to Texas and he taught classes on Japanese culture and language at the University of Texas. He was the author of many books and textbooks and also wrote books in Japanese. The point of me telling you this is that Jack Seward was a Gaijin who became fluent in Japanese. So he's really someone worth listening to if you're trying to become fluent in Japanese. Okay, the book has 16 numbered chapters, or I'll call them lessons, with subheadings at the start of each chapter that indicate the topics covered in each chapter. The book really has poor structure, but in general, each chapter loosely follows the following format. The lesson starts with a list of useful everyday expressions. Next, there is a vocabulary list followed by a list of pattern sentences for memorization. The next section is called How to Use, and it's several pages long explaining key topics of the lesson. For example, how to conjugate verbs, how to use adjectives, how to use particles, etc. Next, there is a section called Cultural Sidelights. To be honest, these cultural notes are pretty interesting from his perspective, and I think they contain a lot of practical advice for interacting with Japanese people. The final section is called Study Recommendations that offer additional practice advice on studying Japanese. One thing I like about this book is it teaches some expressions using both the dictionary or casual forms of the verbs in addition to the polite forms of the verbs. I like books that include teaching casual forms because so many of the self-taught courses focus almost 100% on using the polite Japanese verb forms. For example, he provides pattern sentences that use boku and kimi instead of watashi and anata. This book is also well known for teaching some pretty funny phrases. For example, baka yaro, which I don't really remember learning in Rosetta Stone. But to be honest, I've never had an occasion to use baka yaro during one of my business meetings in Japan, and I hope I never will. I really like this book because it's interesting and entertaining, but I don't really feel it's a good self-study course due to the lack of good structure. However, I feel that learning basic Japanese is good supplemental material to use along with a larger and more structured Japanese course such as Rosetta Stone, Pimsleur, Berlitz, etc. Okay, so here's my final recommendation. I can't ignore the fact that this book was written by a Gaijin who became fluent in Japanese in the 1940s and has some really good advice to pass on. The cultural notes and study recommendations are really worth reading in this book. On the other hand, if you're on a tight budget, I would tell you to save your money and don't buy this book. However, if you like buying supplemental books, an example I can think of would be the book Making Out in Japanese, then I think this book is definitely worth adding to your collection. Of course, if you read the reviews on Amazon, this could be a book that people love or hate, so I'll leave it up to you to decide. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck with your Japanese studies.